Now that I've told you what copyright is not and what copyright does not cover, let's begin our discussion of what copyright actually does cover. And here we begin with a basic proposition about copyright law, namely that copyright law protects expression, nothing more, nothing less. Copyright says that expression is its only domain or area of subject matter that it protects. Copyright, in other words, is synonymous with protection for expression. What exactly does that mean? You might think, given copyright law's emphasis on only protecting expression and nothing else, that we would have a clear definition or understanding of expression. Unfortunately not. We don't. The copyright statute does not define expression, and we don't have a very clear understanding in the abstract of what expression really is. But in practice, we have a pretty good sense of what expression is. And we know what expression is, ironically, by figuring out what expression is not. In other words, it's easy to understand what expression is by seeing what expression is not. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's start with the example of a newspaper article that describes a current event or a current incident. Now, if you think about this newspaper article, it has a couple of components. First, it has the actual facts, the actual data that form the basis of the reporter's article. The actual time of the event, the people who were present, maybe the names of a few eyewitnesses, maybe the names of a few experts, and where they actually are from. If it's some reporting about, an incident or a calamity, the number of victims, things like that. It has a lot of facts built into the actual story. But over and above that, what it has is the reporter's own telling of the story, the exposition, the description, the narration of those facts in the reporter's own words. Copyright law protects the latter, the exposition, the description, the story, the narrative, not the underlying facts. What does that mean in practice? You may wonder. Well, it means the following, which is that if someone else comes along and takes those facts and reproduces them in his or her own words, now with new exposition, new story, new narrative, it is not copyright infringement because copyright protection never existed for those facts. So you can take those facts. As long as you didn't take the exposition, you didn't take expression. And as a result, copyright not protecting facts but only protecting expression means that that taking is fine. That's the first example. Let me give you another example, this time involving an artwork. Say an artist's depiction of a public building, a city hall. Now this artist may stand in front of the building and actually paint in a very accurate way the building itself. Now if someone else comes along and copies that artist's work by taking that structure of the building and using it in a different way, let's say for constructing another building, the artist has no monopoly in the building itself. The artist can't say, oh, that's my architectural depiction of the building. No, the only thing that the artist can prevent is the artistic expression or drawing of the building from being copied. In other words, it's the expression of the building itself that gets copyright protection, not the actual structure of the building as such. So that's what we mean by saying that it's only the expression and not things that are intertwined with or underneath the expression itself. That's how we understand expression. This will become clearer as we talk about specific subject matter and start discussing individual cases. But knowing that copyright only protects expression leads us to a very important preliminary implication that we need to bear in mind. And this is the fact that copyright, because of its unidimensional or singular focus on expression, has an important interaction with the First Amendment of the Constitution. So what does the First Amendment of the Constitution say? The First Amendment of the Constitution obviously embodies a bedrock principle of American democracy, which is the freedom of speech. Now, if you think about what exactly expression is, go back to my example of the reporter narrating in text or on camera an actual news story, expression is speech. What is the obvious implication of this? The obvious implication of this is that copyright, in essence, creates speech rights. copyright law grants creators rights in their speech, of course, if it meets certain eligibility criteria. And what does this protection entail? Well, it entails preventing others from doing things with their speech under certain circumstances that would amount to copyright infringement. So copyright is about speech, and copyright protection is about creating rights in speech. As a result, when the law of copyright infringement tells you that you cannot copy that speech or that expression, in reality, it is restraining your speech. It is acting as a restraint on speech. And what this means, therefore, as an obvious implication, is that copyright restrictions are implicitly, in practice, speech restrictions. And the obvious consequence of this is that copyright needs to be balanced against considerations of free speech in its actual functioning. And guess what? The law does this on a very regular basis. Copyright law and other areas of law, such as free speech law, police the boundaries of protectable expression in figuring out what copyright protects and how much protection is afforded in the interest of maintaining this balance between the freedom of speech and the rights that copyright gives creators. And it does this for reasons internal to copyright, namely copyright's own objectives and goals, and external ones, which are reasons that come from the Constitution. So the main thing to remember is that copyright protects only expression. All expression, by definition, is speech, and as a result, copyright has an important interface with the First Amendment, which it maintains and polices on a regular basis, both through its internal doctrines and externally through other mechanisms.